Unions hold a Labor Day rally in Taipei, calling for an end to bullying in the workplace.
透过这次职场霸凌的法制化，我们希望要求企业能更加重视。
Taiwanese lawmakers visit Washington at a delicate moment in Taiwan-U.S. ties.
We have strong relations with Taiwan and the military there.
The U.S. economy shows negative growth for the first time in 3 years.
But this is Biden's economy because we took over on January 20th.
Plus, one of Taiwan's great religious festivals is wrapping up. We'll take you toward the end of the Daja Matsu pilgrimage. Good evening. Welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Joyce Zhen. May 1st marks International Labor Day, and in Taiwan, workers took to the streets to call for better workplace rights and protections. Tiffany Wong was there.
Thousands of people representing dozens of labor unions and NGOs marched on Labor Day around Taiwan's presidential office in Taipei. They included workers from the manufacturing, medical, and banking sectors, calling for better workplace protections, including changes to the Labor Standards Act for benefits like more flexible time off, more national holidays, and even 4-day work weeks. In 2023, Taiwanese workers ranked 5th overall for working the longest hours compared to other developed countries. And those in the care services industry say long hours take a toll on their mental and physical health and affect the quality of their work.
这近20年来都一样，都是工作9个小时到10个小时，所以在这个部分，你说要工作者有一个很好的照顾品质，其实是非常为难，然后身心负荷非常大的一种工作样态。
Stagnant wages is another issue that some essential workers say drive many out of the care industry.
我真的希望让全国的民众看到、听到。 我们护理人员真的没有低薪，我们没有像人家想象中的说我们是贪得无厌，都这么高薪了，为什么还要出来争取？我们平均薪资都是3到4万，这都是可以查的。
Another top concern, workplace bullying, after several high-profile incidents in recent years, including at the Labor Ministry itself, that have led to suicides. Taiwan's labor laws currently do not address reporting workplace bullying and harassment. But according to the latest poll, more than 70% of the public say they've experienced bullying in the workplace. And with these cases happening in the upper echelons of the government itself, these labor unions can't help but ask, how much will it take for the government to enact change?
但是这么多年来，我们认为政府并没有真正的去倾听基层劳工的声音，那没有去倾听工会的一个意见、想法，甚至于我们提出的很多的具体的政策措施，政府也都并没有采纳。
At a cabinet meeting on Labor Day, the head of the Labor Ministry's Occupational Safety and Health Administration came out with a list of improvements the government aims to make.
透过这次职场霸凌的法制化，我们希望要求企业能更加重视，然后积极预防，那提供劳工申诉管道，保障劳工的权益，以营造友善的职场。
我们讲了我们的这个第7项的诉求，我们今天第1到第7的诉求。
Also at issue, rights for civil servants. Under current law, civil service workers are not allowed to form unions for collective bargaining and are forbidden from going on strike. Labor advocates say this puts them at a disadvantage.
Taiwan has made strides in labor rights in the past few years, including improvements to the national holiday system. But without legal protections against workplace bullying, long working hours, and stagnant wages, workers here will continue calling for more action. Klein Wong, Chris Ma, Reese Ayers, and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwanese lawmakers visiting Washington say they've talked with U.S. lawmakers about everything from trade to defense spending. Their visit comes at a key moment as Taiwan and other countries use a 90-day pause in sweeping U.S. tariffs to push forward negotiations. Taiwan lawmakers make progress on the Hill, meeting with U.S. senators and representatives in Washington, D.C., as Taipei looks to strengthen ties with its largest international backer. In the background, ongoing negotiations led by a different Taipei team to avoid steep U.S. tariffs. This bipartisan legislative group looking to relieve pressure on other issues that's weighed on Taiwan-U.S. trade, like the problem of double taxation.
避免双重课税的问题啊，因为这个也涉及到我们接下来跟美方之间的谈判，还有如果说希望有更多的这些到美国投资的这些项目或者厂商。
Before Donald Trump took office in January, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill to cut taxes on Taiwanese businesses and employees in the United States, easing the burden of being taxed in both countries. Taiwan praised the move. The bill is now in the hands of the Senate to approve, paving the way for the U.S. president to sign it into law. The delegation is looking to keep up the momentum behind the bill at a time of a changing world order under Trump. Some American lawmakers, too, are working to retain long-standing bipartisan support for Taiwan.
It's important we have strong relations with Taiwan and the military there. That's a hugely important trade corridor, the Straits of Taiwan. So it's important we maintain strong relations, and that's what we're going to do.
But Taiwan has been rattled by some of the Trump administration's demands, like a call for Taipei to raise its defense spending to 10% of GDP, a rate Premier Zhou Rongtai says is impossible. In D.C., ruling Democratic Progressive Party lawmaker Wang Dingyu hopes to show his U.S. counterparts that the defense budget has increased, with an aim to spend over 3% of GDP.
我们刚才沟通了一些，不管是避免双重课税，现在在参议院最后一里路啊，那以及台美之间军购的议题，以及台美合作训练的议题。
The cross-party delegation has also met with leading think tanks, the Hudson Institute and Heritage Foundation, and the U.S.-Taiwan Business Council, making the most out of their week in the U.S.'s political center. Scott Huang and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus. To find out more about the lawmakers' visit, Leslie Liao spoke with Iris Shaw, director of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's mission in Washington, D.C.
Visit comes at a time when Taiwan is trying to deal with Trump's tariff on the country, which is a potential 32%. Is the purpose of this visit to negotiate trade?
Right. My understanding is that the legislative delegation is not here to negotiate trade. The trade negotiations are under the purview of Taiwan's government, and this visit is actually part of a long-standing practice of the parliamentary diplomacy. So it consists of members of the LY's U.S. caucus and the Foreign and National Defense Committee. President Lai has announced at the early outset of this tariff negotiation will be led by an interagency task force led by the Vice Premier Zheng Lijun. Both sides started the negotiation since April 11th. From what I heard, the discussion has been going well.
You said this isn't specifically geared towards trade. Historically, what have these parliamentary groups, these parliamentary visits to Washington, D.C. been about?
Many of the touch points between the U.S. and Taiwan delegation of such will likely to engage with their congressional counterparts as well as broader Washington's policy community. But I imagine this time around, as they say in the media, tariff and maybe security issues will come up in these type of discussions.
What do you think the U.S. policymakers will be looking to get out of these talks, or what kind of points would you think they'll be talking about?
I'll just point out Treasury Secretary Bessent mentioned there are 15 to 18 important trading partners that the U.S. will prioritize in the trade negotiations and tariff negotiations. And Taiwan is the U.S. 7th largest trading partner, so we're certainly in that ballpark. Overall, the U.S. is looking to reduce trade imbalance, reinvigorate U.S. industrial base, which also confirms to Taiwan's economic strategy as our major investment in procurement of energy, and defense articles are already underway.
That was Iris Shaw, director of the DPP's mission in Washington, D.C. Taiwan's GDP grew over 5.3% in the first quarter, the highest in a year. The government says the figure is higher than they predicted in February. It says this could be because of overseas customers stockpiling products to get ahead of the tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump, and since demand for Taiwan's technology products remains high. Meanwhile, the U.S. economy has slowed, with GDP shrinking in the first quarter, according to government data. The reason? Some economists are pointing to President Donald Trump's tariff plan, but as Chris Gorin now reports, he's defending it.
Donald Trump on his 100th day in office, pushing back against new government numbers showing the U.S. economy may be shrinking.
In the first quarter GDP numbers just out today, core GDP, now we're removing distortions from imports, inventories, and government spending, was up plus 3%. But this is Biden's economy because we took over on January 20th.
Trump claims growth while blaming his predecessor for data showing that U.S. GDP fell 0.3% in the first quarter of 2025, the first time the country has seen negative growth in 3 years. The discrepancy between the numbers rooted in how government data is counted, which Trump calls distortions. Imports surged in the first quarter, and because they're made overseas, the government subtracts them from U.S. GDP. The large increase coming from businesses rushing to import items ahead of Trump's proposed tariffs, which have sent markets tumbling since they were announced last month. Despite celebrating stock market gains in his first term, Trump now downplaying his effect on them.
Yeah, I'm not taking credit or discredit for the stock market. I'm just saying that we inherited a mess. In my case, I had the biggest stock market increase, 88% in the last term, in my last term. But I don't view the stock market as the end all. It's an indicator.
Trump also downplaying the effects his 145% tariffs on Chinese imports have on U.S. consumers.
Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know? And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. But we're not talking about something that we have to go out of our way.
But Americans may not agree, with recent polls showing his overall approval rating dropping, with his handling of the economy being particularly low, with only 36% approving. Trump says he's making deals with U.S. and foreign companies to boost investment, saying the economy will bounce back. But for now, with weak economic numbers and slipping poll support, he's on the defensive. Eason Chun and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Nvidia's Jensen Huang has called on the U.S. government to reconsider its strict export rules on AI chips so that it can stay ahead in the industry. The Taiwan-born CEO was at the White House for an event about investing in U.S. production.
We're going to build Nvidia's technology, the next generation of that, all here in the United States. Without the president's leadership and, very importantly, his strong encouragement, and I mean a strong encouragement, frankly, manufacturing in the United States wouldn't have accelerated to this pace.
Nvidia has long relied on Taiwan-based production by TSMC, which is ramping up its chip-making capabilities in Arizona. Huang says the U.S. should support American AI tech being sold around the world, as its rival China is not far behind. Just last month, Nvidia said it faced over $5 billion in fines after Washington limited exports of one of its most popular AI chips to China. Coming up after the break, is China using far-right groups to go after dissidents abroad? We hear one Hong Kong exile's take. Stay with us.
We're back in Kaohsiung Harbor, but boy, do I have an adventure to share with you. Season 4, we complete the circumnavigation of Taiwan, all the way from Daxi Harbor, around the South Hengchong Peninsula, and end up in Hobihu. This fish market is a gold mine. I had no idea they also have fish auction going on over here. Oh, Oh, that was amazing. You can see this net was full of mahi-mahi. What a beautiful mahi-mahi. Huge. We finally spotted one and everyone jumped into the action. Here it is, Olambi. We've made it. So, to celebrate it, now you gotta do this.
Latest season of Happy Fisherman. Every Thursday, 8:15 p.m. on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Philippine authorities have arrested a Chinese national in possession of electronic eavesdropping equipment near its elections commission. The suspect, holding a passport from Macao, was caught near the elections office in Manila with an IMSI catcher. That's a device that can intercept all mobile communications within an up to 3-kilometer radius. The incident comes as the country heads into its midterm elections. China says it is communicating with the Philippines on the matter and says it has no interest in interfering in Manila's internal affairs. An investigation from The Guardian has found that China has been inciting far-right groups to attack Hong Kong exiles in the UK, including sharing details about the exiles' whereabouts and putting bounties on them. For more on Beijing's continued repression of Hong Kong's democracy activists, Alec MacDonald spoke to Michael Moe, a researcher in the UK and a former Hong Kong district councillor.
Michael, can you talk about this report from The Guardian and what tactics are being used to silence Hong Kong exiles in the UK?
So, according to The Guardian, which is in collaboration with the ICIJ investigation, find that there are some messages circulating in social media, particularly the right-wing groups, posing the addresses and the whereabouts of pro-Hong Kong democracy pro-democracy Hong Kong activists' UK addresses and their whereabouts. So it is something that is not new, I would say. It is coherent with the continuing transnational repression that is exerted upon those pro-democracy Hong Kongers abroad. But it is a new development that it linked up to the right-wing elements or has been spread to the right-wing WhatsApp groups or the Telegram groups. It also matches the trend that these right-wing groups in the UK that uses WhatsApp to pretty much circulate those ethnic minority groups' surfacing points or their activity points, pretty much letting their fellows or their folks know that these ethnic minorities are there and seemingly to incite whatever hatred to them.
So what can Hong Kong exiles do to stay safe, and what more can the government do to protect asylum seekers and their country?
So there are two ways for Hong Kongers to get themselves protected in the UK. For instance, one thing is that to organize workshops or to share the best practices for personal safety, both online and offline. Secondly, I think it's more on the UK government's responsibility to engage with Hong Kong diaspora community and also other ethnic minorities that is under the transnational repression by Beijing, to talk to them regularly, to hold regular meetings. So far, we don't see that mechanism.
Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, we have seen 4 democracy activists released from jail, but there's still talk about heavy repression and surveillance. Can you talk a little bit about what the experience still is like in Hong Kong?
For those high-profile activists at STEM, we have seen a trend that police would make a heavy surveillance on them, and then pretty much to monitor who they have met, when those meetings happened. And for those not so prominent activists, they are still having their self-censorship exercise. For instance, when meeting pro-democracy activists who are now even living in exile overseas. For those pretty much who have left the jail but not engaged in any kind of activism anymore, their lives in Hong Kong are still difficult. For instance, we receive reports that these people have been debanked pretty much by all banks in Hong Kong. So it's very hard for them to get a job in Hong Kong without having a bank account.
That was former Hong Kong District Councillor Michael Moe speaking from the UK. South Korea's acting president Han Duck-soo has stepped down. His resignation hints at a bid to run in the country's snap presidential election in June. Han, an independent, became acting president after his predecessor, Yoon Suk-yeol, was impeached for declaring martial law last December. So far, only Lee Jae-myung from the opposition Democratic Party has been formally nominated for the presidential race, but Lee's eligibility is in question after South Korea's top court overturned a ruling that cleared him of election law violation. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people walk for over a week in honor of Taiwan's most worshipped folk deity, Matsu, goddess of the sea. It can be a grueling journey, and as pilgrims near the end, there's a sense of celebration and relief. In the fourth part of our series on the pilgrimage, Cadence Kranta takes us to that final stretch where pilgrims and Matsu return to where their journey began.
Here, pilgrims near the end of their journey, and there's a sense of joy and celebration in the air. Among the crowds is a tiger deity on a stroller. He usually lives in this pilgrim's home, but today he's out enjoying the atmosphere.
出来绕境啊，然后交朋友这样，沿路都会有很多庙嘛，很多人家请神明出来，这样让他交朋友，这样开心啊，他很开心啊，对啊。
On the pilgrimage, it's common for people to bring other gods out to journey with them. Many bring their own small Mazu statues.
台湾的妈祖是一个反映老百姓、反映民间需求的一个信仰。妈祖多功能。 只是反映了台湾的民主的多元声音啦。
But here is where the beginner group's journey together will come to an end.
你们有谁要睡在这边的？ 应该全部都会休息再离开吧。都应该都在这里。
At this point, there are only around 10 people remaining. They will finish the last few hours of the journey on their own time.
这个绕境要结束啊，就足欢喜的，袂安尼，颠倒的，敢若唔甘离开妈祖，唔甘离开这个团体安尼。
对，因为其实我们在这个走过程，我们有团体的生活，大家都是一家人。 你能走到第9天，一定是你有过人的意志力。人生之中，你就跟自己讲，前面就是终点了，不要轻易的放弃。这是我觉得跟妈祖学习的这个感觉吧。
参加绕境的人吼，拢会上瘾，跟他吸了毒品一样。可能是对那个心灵上追妈祖的心灵上，啊，个有就是讲，这几天大家你。 沿路你沿路安尼行吼，你有感觉每到一个所在，人在地对咱的付出，迄个爱心，迄个大爱，你会足感动啊。然后你就每一年你会想要落来，一年来感动一届安尼。你们要先离开的人，先跟我再见啦。就这样啊。拜拜拜拜拜拜拜拜。
While others will stay to rest for a while, these two group members have decided to leave now. To push through the final leg of the journey to Zhenlan Temple, where everything started just 8 days ago. end of their journey, they must let Mazu know they're leaving, or getting off the horse, as it's known in Chinese.
弟子黄伟腾，大甲妈祖绕境，全程徒步，工程圆满。妈祖婆，我们现在就准备下马的动作，谢谢。也希望，未来日子都能平平安安、顺顺利利，还有爸爸身体健康、阖家平安。也希望我们这个新手团的每一个人都能顺利平安、事事顺心。谢谢。
Mazu, in her sedan chair, won't reach Zhenlan Temple until tomorrow, but her presence is felt even still. Not just here, but across Taiwan, where in small towns and big cities alike, many people will be able to tell you a story about Mazu. How she helped them, how she connected them with others, how she affected their lives. So in many ways, the story of Mazu is also the story of every Taiwanese person who has ever been touched by the sea goddess.
That ends our coverage this week of the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage, but stay tuned as we bring you stories from another major event venerating the sea goddess, the Baishatun Mazu pilgrimage. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Before we go, here's some more colorful images of the Dajia Mazu pilgrimage. I'm Joyce Sin. Have a good evening.